then has to drag me off at the end. So what is team leading? I spent a long time thinking about this, really, and the main reason that I want to come and talk about team leading today is that when I came to Haven nearly 4 years ago, it was the first time I'd worked with other team leads. And they're a nice bunch, but they're quite intimidating. I was very anxious most of the time in dealing with the other team leads. And I had imposter syndrome all the time. So I started thinking about team leading. Do you know, I can't remember which version of the talk I'm doing, so I don't know the bit I'm about to say is going to come later. So I'm going to say it now, and let's see what happens. So I started thinking about what team leading is, and I didn't just try and come up with ideas myself. I talked to lots of different people, including the other team leads. So I included a lot of what they told me in the talk, and this is from Robin over there. Give everyone a wave, Robin. And Robin was telling me that team leading is not for the faint-hearted, and I think he's right. And it's a lot easier with clean, clear requirements. I think we'd all like clear, clean requirements, but that's not really how software development works, because people change their mind. It's what keeps us safe from AI taking over our jobs. John Hegarty. John, are you here?
Hey.
Hey, over there. Wonderful. Right, is being a leader you wish you had before you were promoted. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had some seriously crap bosses in my time. Fortunately with Steve.
Still do.
How can I say nice things about you if you get in the way first? And Alice Leslie. Knowing to accept the answer on Stack Overflow is not necessarily correct or the best. So I think this is good for software engineers in general. And it was pointed out to me that not everybody will know what Stack Overflow is. So it's a website where you can go and ask questions, usually about software engineering of some sort or another. And people will come and give you the answer, but of course the answer is only as good as the person giving it. And Laurent, I asked Laurent, and he told me that being able to see through ChatGPT's imperious tones was what being a team lead was about. I had no idea what imperious meant, so I looked it up. Does anybody else know what imperious means? Laurent, that's a bit harsh. It means, you're going to hate yourself now, arrogant and domineering. So, I don't really see ChatGPT that way, but it's given it a whole new view. And creating the perfect environment for the team members to thrive. So that's really important. I'll talk a bit about that, but it's really important that you make sure that your team can grow. They're not just there to do the work, they're there to grow as engineers and as people. And one thing I think we can all agree on is that team leading is hard, really hard. So I talked to team leads. I searched a few things in the Oxford English Dictionary. I chatted to ChatGPT. I even talked to my wife about what team leading might really be, and this is what I came up with. A team lead is someone who guides or influences a group of individuals who cooperate and coordinate their efforts to achieve a specific objective. So I'm hoping that's going to, that's what I'm going to use as a definition of team leading, but I hope it rings bells with everybody. Product, design, engineering, we're all trying to do the same thing, and we all should be moving in the same direction. So the main reason I wanted to start talking about team leading is a couple of years ago, might be sooner than that, Chris Stanlake decided that he was going to go and team lead somewhere else. And this was sort of my turning point, because I suddenly felt this major urge to give him some advice, which I'm sure none of you can imagine me wanting to give people advice when they haven't asked for it. And these are the things that I came up with off the top of my head. Talk to your team every day, remember to delegate, and pick your battles. And the one that I struggle with, and I know some of the other, especially the new team leads struggle with, is doing the work is not the only way to add value. So let's start off with talking to your team every day. I genuinely believe that teams that get on well are more productive, happier, they stay together longer, and they trust each other. And you can do lots of things to help your team get on well together and do different things, but you can't force them to. So some of the things that we do is stand-ups. Everybody does a stand-up, you know what they are. You turn up every day, you make sure that everybody knows what they're doing, and you can find out any blockers, all that sort of stuff. We're all very familiar with stand-ups. Something I did quite successfully with lettings, I'm sure other people do it as well, and currently in checkout, is we have a shared chat where almost anything goes. It gets pretty close to things that aren't safe for work on occasion, but everybody is talking and usually sort of communicating and building that rapport, that relationship. And regular team socials and games, online and in person. So we often do an online game of some sort. And it normally involves around some sort of words and that sort of thing. And even the non-native English speakers on the teams come along and enjoy the games that we play. And I was expecting to see reticence and people not to be keen, but it's good. And then we get together in person as well. Last year we did some axe throwing in London. Another way of making sure that you talk to your team every day, not necessarily every day, but making sure you talk to your team is one-to-ones. Now, I absolutely hate one-to-ones, and it's not just because I have to have them with Steve. Okay, I'll drop the jokes then. Yeah, it's not just because I have to have them with Steve. It's because if I've got a problem or I want to praise someone or something like that, I don't want to wait until the next one-to-one. But sometimes one-to-ones are the only way to start building that communication, because you have a regular time at which you're going to start talking to somebody. So they can help build up that rapport with the members of your team. And then hopefully you won't need them because you just talk every day instead. But what you should talk about is really difficult. So even when I come in and see some of you in person, you know, and I know you all really well from working online in teams, it's really difficult to know what to say. So you'll often find me sort of saying a few words and then nipping off. But it could be anything that you talk to them about. The important thing is to talk. You can talk about how they are, ask them to tell you how they are. The biggest problem I have with asking my team how they are, and it's the same in lettings, is every time I do, they tell me how their ticket is. And I don't want to know how their ticket's doing, I want to know how they're doing. In a lot of cases, it's appropriate to ask about your family. I will often share about my family, and sometimes people choose to share what their family's doing as well. But that may not be appropriate for everybody. But you just want to get to the point where they know that you care, your team member knows that you care, so when they've got a problem, they come to you. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But it doesn't matter really, just make sure you talk, build up that rapport and those lines of communication. So something that's really important to me at Haven, and I'm going to embarrass you, Steve, and especially with Steve as my leader, is that I know I'm supported, and that's what makes me happy at work. When I have a problem, I have a way of getting it sorted out, and that's how I want to feel, how I want my team members to feel. So they'll come to me. I mean, anything from coding problems to not getting on with their colleagues, their cat's died, they need some time off, those sorts of things I want to know so that I can support my team and make them feel supported. So remember to delegate. Ask yourself, can I do this? And as a team lead, when it comes to practical things, for me at least, the question is more and more, no, I can't do it, I need to give it to one of my team members. And should I do this? And even more, should I do this? It's probably going to be no. So ask yourself that every time. I can't remember who told me this advice, but I had it printed on my wall for a while. And it makes it a lot easier. But sometimes you just want to. Yeah? Someone's got a great new feature, there's some new tool, you want to have a play, you want to do the feature. But 9 times out of 10, you need to give it to your squad to do. But there are there's 1 times out of 10 where you can do it yourself. And so this is really important. I learned this while there was some tension between a couple of members of a squad some time ago. The engineers are responsible for doing the work. Okay? You as team leads are not responsible for doing the work, but you are accountable for what the engineers do in the end product. And when you start thinking in those terms, as we'll talk about a bit later on, it becomes easier to let go and to delegate. But you can't delegate without trust. And trust is really difficult to come by. And I think when you start in a new squad, or you have a new team member, then you need to start by assuming trust. And then that trust needs to be tested and maintained throughout the relationship. And there are a number of ways you can do that. I've talked a lot about communication. It's really important you talk to the people on your squad and you learn about them. Pull requests are the other way you can start to build trust, because you can see the code and you can see what they're doing, and you can help to try and lead them in the right direction if you need to. What I've discovered universally is that developers, engineers, they hate the team lead being the gatekeeper for PRs. I'm guilty of having rules on my squads where every PR has to go through me before it's merged. They hate that. Okay, don't do it. I don't do it anymore. Just make sure that somebody looks at their code and that you look at their code regularly. And team demos. So the code shows you how the software is put together, but it doesn't necessarily prove that it does what it was that the code was meant to do. So make sure you demo this as well. Pick your battles. Right, so this was a piece of advice that I had off my... Are you going all the way over there to show me 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Nearly there anyway. Yeah, pick your battles. I had a bit of a revelation while I was actually talking about writing the talk for this, and it is that I'm absolutely dreadful at it. Lots of you in this room I've had battles with, but a lot of the time it isn't necessary, and I've still got a lot to learn here. You should ask yourself, is it my battle? Because it might not be. It might be something you feel strongly about, but it's not really your battle to fight. Does it matter? I had a bit of a falling out with all my squad before Christmas because I wanted our squad to be the first ones to do all the training, and he wanted to leave it till the last minute. But fortunately, someone pointed out that it was the hill that both of us didn't want to die on. So just consider whether you really need to have that fight. And now might be the right time. The thing you want to fight about, it might sort itself out in time, but you need to think about it. And always avoid saying, do it because I said so, unless, of course, the business says you have to say so. You should, as a lead engineer, be able to describe to the person that you're arguing with why it should be done a different way. If you can't, then I must admit sometimes I end up resorting to do it because I said so, but I try and keep that as rare as possible. Admit when you're wrong. Yeah, when you're talking to people, sometimes they have better ideas, and there are three things you can do when you realise that you're wrong. One is you can just make them do it anyway to prove the point. Don't do that. You can just let it slide, and they go and do what the right thing was to do, and nothing is said. Or you can admit you're wrong. And thank you for Alex Leslie for pointing out that that's the thing that you should do.
You need to change my name so it's spelled right.
Is Phil here? Yep. Oh yeah, we won't go about names, will we, Phil? Right, doing work isn't the only way to add value. So Steve again, I'm afraid, he pointed out that team leading involves managing stakeholders, setting expectations, communicating vision. All these sorts of things don't sound very codey, and they're not, but they're really important. You need to bear in mind, wrong slide. And also from John Moore, looking out for the health and well-being of your systems and teams. So as Laurent was saying earlier on, it's really important that you look after your team. Not just the code, not just the next feature, but your team members and the systems to make sure that they're running smoothly. Oh yeah, Phil, I knew you were in here somewhere. And of course, as a team lead, you're very much a shit deflector. Your job is to make sure that your team is able to do the work, and you need to keep the shit off them, as it were. And I feel like this all the time. I've been busy talking all day and I haven't achieved anything, or it's been ages since I've written code, and I know a couple of other people do. But you gradually become the enabler of your engineers writing code. So the things that you do aren't necessarily very code-like, but they're still really important. So, and just remember that the definition I came up with is that a team lead is someone who guides or influences a group of individuals who cooperate and coordinate their efforts to achieve a specific objective. It doesn't say that a team lead is someone who achieves the goal despite of the team. You're all one team. And without the team lead, the team wouldn't be able to focus on work so much. It would take them longer to do the work, and it would be more challenging for them to do it. And of course, if you're not looking after the team, that means product would have to, and nobody wants that, do they? So remember, talk to a team every day, remember to delegate, pick your battles, and doing the work isn't the only way to add value. And I'd like to leave you with a couple more team lead quotes. So Will Johnson said, taking all the good things from your good leaders and not taking the bad things from your bad leaders. So learning from the leaders that you've had. And I particularly like this one that Steve came up with. So team leading is telling me that I'm wrong. Any questions?
Round of applause, first of all. We've got time for one question. Like anyone at all.
Oh, I've to cover everything.
No. Pretty good.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.